Do not look it in the eyes, for to do so will put you under their power and allow them to possess you. At night, when I'm alone, I still think about him. Not the man I knew, but the monster he'd become. The darkness always made me think of him. No, not him. It. It was dark when I first saw him. He'd been charming then. Tall with 5 o'clock shadow and a mop of curly brown hair that was just long enough to fall into his eyes. His eyes were what really first caught my attention. Beautiful baby blues that lit up the darkness. We hit it off that night, exchanged numbers, and we'd see each other whenever he was home. Work took him away from town a lot. Towards the end, it had consumed him. I didn't know much about what he did. Something to do with wild animals and national parks. I'd never been the outdoors type. The closest I got to wild animals were the squirrels in my yard. He talked about what he did a few times, but most of the information had been run-of-the-mill stuff. Some things were more technical, and they went right over my head, so I never really got too deep in these conversations, until about 2 weeks ago, before he'd gone missing. He'd found something out in his last trip that had delayed him from coming home that week. He'd called me a few times during the first few days, excited about what he'd seen on trail cameras. I'd missed the last call I got from him. It'd been late, and I had to get to work early that morning. He left me a rushed-sounding voicemail. He said he was close to finding it, and proof. He'd seemed crazy at the time, rambling about a cave and some lunar cycles. That was the last call I'd gotten from him, but not the last time it would communicate with me. It was Saturday, and I'd been trying to call him for the last 2 days with no response. It would just ring until early that Sunday morning, when I tried texting him. "Baby, I'm worried. Please call me back. Are you hurt?" His only response was a picture of his face. Only this wasn't his. It looked like him, but it seemed all wrong. His 5 o'clock shadow had grown into a scruffy beard, and his curly hair was matted in places. His cheeks were gaunt, and his eyes were just hollow holes. His baby blues flat and dead-looking. He was smiling, but it wasn't his smile. It wasn't genuine, just a poor imitation of one. No one smiled like that. His lips thin and pulled up at almost painful angles. I deleted it right away. Whatever had sent me that image wasn't him. In retrospect, I wish I'd kept it. People would believe me now if I had. I'd even start to believe what I'd seen a month later if I'd kept it. Maybe I wouldn't believe I was just going out of my mind with grief over losing him. I'd been at his house late one night after work. I'd missed him, and I had a few things I had to get out before the landlord started the cleanup. I'd been in the kitchen by the sink when something in the darkness caught my eye. At first, I thought it was my own reflection in the window, but as I leaned in closer, it did too. It was him, but not him. The beard was longer, and his hair hung around his long face in dirty tangles. His eyes were bright again, but not the way I remembered them. It placed its face up against the glass and let its long fingers slide across the surface, leaving dirty smears as it stared at me blankly for a moment. Some kind of emotion flickering across its face. Recognition. Slowly the corners of its thin lips started to form up into a smile. The same one from the picture. Too much teeth. One corner of its lip pulled up almost all the way to its ear. I screamed and threw myself back away from the window, landing hard on the floor, scrambling on my hands and knees toward the kitchen doorway, wildly trying to get away. When I found the courage to look back at the window, it was gone, but the spot where it had pressed its face in dirty hands was still there. I cowered in the doorway till the sun came up, and then I left. I haven't been back since, but at night, I still watched my windows, waiting for it to come back for me.